you for coming this morning. It's beautiful outside. If you haven't been out yet, it's starting to get warm. Yeah, it's beautiful. We've been in Alaska for 6 months, so it's really nice to see the sunshine again. All right, today we're talking about island hopping again. We're going to talk about our last 3 ports today, Kona, Kauai, and Honolulu. And today I'll be talking about the natural highlights, places that I would like to go, nature places, maps, best snorkeling spots, museums, hikes, interesting facts, my secret spots, and how to get around. And so feel free to take photos of any of my slides. And of course, you can watch the shows on channel 16 if you forgot your phone, or if you just want to take notes later while you're watching this. All right, my name is Nancy Caruso. I'm your naturalist. I am also a marine biologist. And a naturalist is an expert or student of natural history. You all should have this down by now. But I still got asked yesterday afternoon in the elevator if I sold herbs. So it's not gotten around the ship yet what a naturalist is. So I'll keep showing this slide throughout the cruise. I work when I'm not on the ships for a nonprofit organization that I founded in 2009. And I work on the ship because I'm a marine biologist. And I have to work to support my habit of being a marine biologist. You might not know what that means, but there's several people on board that have talked to me about having their grandchildren become marine biologists. I said, no, don't do it. There's no work. So that's why I work on Carnival Cruise Lines, is to support this habit that I have of wanting to study the ocean. There's not very many jobs in the world, and the one that I have requires lots of funding in order to do my projects. For the last 17 years, I've been restoring the kelp forests of Southern California. So essentially, the kelp forests are home to more than 800 different species of animals, and they disappeared about 1983, and nobody really did anything about it until I started this project and restored them with the help of about 5,000 kids growing the kelp and about 300 volunteer divers who helped me pick up all the sea urchins that were covering the reefs and then replant the kelp out there. And now it's a teeming kelp forest again. I do a lot of ocean programs and educational programs, environmental programs in schools, and I teach aquaponics as one of my programs. You might not know what that is, but essentially it uses fish poop to grow crops. We grow food crops and fish in the same water, no soil. And if you have a goldfish or guppies at home and they're not growing food for you, well, then they're not working. So you need to put them to work, because all that water is fertilizer. Fertilizer is expensive. So you can grow food in that water with your fish. I also take adults out on expeditions like this one to go and hug and kiss the gray whales down in Baja every year in February. I do restocking of white sea bass. So in addition to having kids grow kelp, I've also had about 3,600 students grow these little guys, and we restock those in the ocean twice a year. And my organization is the only one in the country that's restocking the ocean with kids doing it. I also am working on abalone. This is an abalone farm, actually, in Southern California. And I thought it would be real easy because there were farms at the time. I thought I'll just buy them from the farms, put them in the classrooms for a year, teach kids about abalone, because no one under the age of 40 knows what an abalone is in California, because they've never lived during a time when they've existed. So by the time I got a permit from the state, which took me 3 years to get to restock them in the ocean, there were no more green abalone left on farms on the world. So I had to start from scratch and go find them in the ocean and start my own farm. So I've taught about 3,800 kids how to grow abalone, and the school year has started, so I need to go home. I'll be going home in San Pedro so I can do my other job, teaching kids in schools on how to grow all these things. And throughout all this process, I've done a lot of other programs as well. One of them is a big festival that's in Laguna Beach every year called the Kelp Fest. You see, I spent 17 years restoring the kelp and teaching people about it and get kids to grow it. And then when it started washing up on the beaches again for the first time in 25 years, people complained. And I thought, oh my goodness, I forgot to educate the people with the $4 million homes on the beaches that it's supposed to be there, because that's a whole other ecosystem when the kelp washes up on the beach. So I thought, well, we'll throw a festival every year and get people to enjoy it and experience kelp, understand why it's so important. So I got all my kids that I work with throughout the school year, and we put on this festival, and it's now in its 12th year. So I have a number of programs. If you haven't seen them yet, you can tune into channel 16. But tomorrow I'll be talking about coral reefs here on the ship, then volcanoes before we get to Hawaii. And then after we leave Hawaii, I have a whole myriad of talks as well about the Polynesian navigators, a fantastic story. Please come to hear that. It's a very important story, a world history story. And the Giants of the Pacific, Reef Romance, or as I named it, Sex in the Sea. Carnival won't let me say the word sex. And the Life of a Marine Biologist, which is all about the work that I do at home. We've started our nature walks, so check your fun times for the times and places to do these in the morning with us at 8:30. Wildlife Watch starting in Hilo and then again in Kona on our way into port. And starting tomorrow night, we'll have some deck stargazing. So if you're an amateur astronomer, please come out, help give us some commentary on what we're seeing in the skies. I'll have bring your phones if you have the stargazing apps on your phones. We'll be looking at the stars. If there's clouds in the skies, it's really difficult to do stargazing because you only get to see a piece of Scorpio, and that's not as dramatic as the whole entire constellation. So if it's really windy or if it's cloudy or rainy, unfortunately, we won't be able to do it. But we'll meet regardless. I'll catch you before you go up there and let you know if it's canceled. And today, congratulations, welcome to the Giant Pacific Garbage Patch. We've made it. If you came out this morning and walked on the nature walk, we saw lots and lots of trash. And I just want to tell you, because it's not coming from the ship. I've had guests stop me and go, are we discharging all that trash? No, that we are in the East Pacific Gyre right now. We're crossing right through the edge of it. And this area right here where we are is where all the plastics off of the North and South American continent, or excuse me, Central American continent, swirl around in the ocean. And we're there right now. So if you go outside and watch right next to the ship, every 30 seconds or shorter, you'll see a piece of trash go by. We saw about 4 or 5 laundry baskets, basketball, some styrofoam, beach ball, bunch of colanders we saw. It's not nice. It's not exciting, and we shouldn't be happy about it, but we own it. That's us. We did that. Right? Somebody said, well, I feel bad. Well, don't feel bad. We did it. We're doing it. So now we have to do something. More than 90% of the plastic pollution is microplastic. That means it's the stuff we can't see, smaller than your finger. It never goes away. It just photodegrades and gets smaller and smaller. And in parts of this garbage patch, there's up to 2 million pieces per square mile, and we don't have any solutions yet. No solution for this. We've sent people to walk on the moon, and we can't figure out how to clean this up yet. Wow. Good thing we got lots of young people who don't think like us coming up right now. So now that we know better, we have to do better, right? My favorite poet, Maya Angelou, says that. When you know better, you have to do better. So make different choices. That's what we can. That's the only thing we can do. No reason to feel bad. We just got to do something. All right. So we're off to Hawaii. We finished Hilo yesterday. We talked about Maui yesterday. And so today we're going to talk about Kona, Hawaii. Kailua Kona is the name of the place we're going. And it is also on the Big Island here. The Big Island is the largest of the Hawaiian Islands. It's the one that's still being created as we speak. Volcano is erupting underwater about 50,000 years. It'll be reaching the surface off the coast of southeast Hawaii. And we're headed to the city of Kona. Kona is an amazing place. It's on the backside of 2 gigantic mountain peaks. Kilauea is over there, Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and it blocks all that wonderful trade wind and moisture-filled air from getting to the Kona side of the island. So it's a desert. If you want to see waterfalls, make sure you do it on the Hilo side because there aren't any on the Kona side. It's a desert over there. And it has the island of Hawaii has 8 of the 13 world climate zones. If you have a car that day, you could drive around and see most of these climate zones in one day, in one place. That's amazing. That's the power of a mountain. So Kona is really directly across from Hilo. You can't drive directly there, however. You got to go around a mountain that goes up 10,000 feet, 13,000 feet on one side, 13 on the other side too. So the port of Kona is going to be a water shuttle port. So we've got to get off the ship, get onto these little tiny boats, and then go over and get off of those onto the pier. And as you've done before, I'm sure, you know that that's not as easy as just walking off the boat. So listen for Jen's announcements on how that's all going to go down, because it's all logistically planned out. You have to have times and stickers and things like that to be able to get off the ship. So listen for her instructions on that. Now you might, because the Ironman competition is coming soon, I think it's in October, you may see some Ironman training going on right where our boat is, pulling into the docks. You'll see Ironman triathletes swimming next to our ship. So there is a little beach right there, but the triathlon actually takes place in Kona, and it's in the next 30 days. I don't know which day it is. There is a city bus in Kona that you can heli on and heli off. And when we get off the ship, we're literally right here in town. So you get off on the dock and you're in the thick of things. Kona is not a really big tourist town. There's maybe 2 blocks by 3 blocks of shops and restaurants, but that might keep you busy for the day. In addition, right here is our pier where we're going to get off the tender. And right here is a little beach in front of a hotel. So you'll have to share it with the hotel guests. But there is a little beach that you can go to right off of our dock. And right next to, over here, right next to the beach, is actually a sacred temple. So you can get a little culture in for the day too. So here's that beach I was talking about. You walk right over here, and there's the temple dedicated to Lono, who is the Hawaiian god of peace, agriculture, and prosperity. Lono, actually, would be the proper pronunciation. Across the street is the first Christian Hawaiian church made out of coral and lava rock. It's actually a gorgeous structure. And so if you're inclined, I like to go into churches. You might want to go check that out. A 2-minute walk from the pier is an old vacation home for the Hawaiian kings and queens. It's a palace, actually, and it's from the 19th century. And it has the one thing about Hawaiian furniture, Hawaiian decoration, is that it's very opulent, very rich tones, and it's quite gorgeous. So if this is something that interests you, you might want to go into the palace there right next to the pier, about a 2-minute walk. It's not very far at all. Now, Kona is very popular for coffee, and I know many of you said you were heading out to try some Kona coffee. There's 650 farms on 20 miles of coast, and it's because of the volcanoes that they can grow the coffee there. It's precisely because of the volcanoes. And I have a friend who lives in Kona who I'll be visiting when I'm there. His friends own a coffee farm, and he asked me to tell you that if you want Kona coffee, make sure it says Kona coffee on it, and that it's 100% Kona coffee, because they can actually put only 10% of the beans in and call it Kona coffee. So if that's what you're after, make sure you read the label. Kona is working really hard to fix that so that they can't call it Kona coffee by throwing a few beans in, but that's not the case right now. And a lot of his friends are coffee farmers. But it's because of the volcanoes that the conditions exist for Kona coffee to be able to grow. On the slopes of Mauna Loa and Hualai'lei, 2 million pounds of coffee are grown per year. And if you're going on one of those tours, you'll be sampling coffee beans, raw coffee beans, and of course, sampling some delicious roasted coffee. Now, the key elements for growing that coffee is the volcanic soil, the shelter from the wind, because the trade winds blow on the other side of the island, and there's always cloud and shade up there at elevation because the mountain stops those clouds from coming across the Pacific. So it gives it kind of a cool area and shady area to grow. If you wanted to live in Kona, my friend just bought a house there. He said he can only afford to live in the first 300 feet. Because every 100 feet adds money to the real estate value because it's cooler higher up the mountain you go. It's hot, like a desert down at the beaches. There's a glass bottom boat tour in Kona. So I'm going to be talking about all the different ways that you can see the coral reefs in Hawaii. And this is one of them without messing up your hair and makeup. You get on the glass bottom boat and they'll drive over the coral reefs so you can see them. There's an opportunity to swim with spinner dolphins. And Kona is actually the site of the International Billfish Tournament. I was there once when they were bringing fish in, and I was just astounded. It wasn't 1,166 pounds, but it was a pretty darn big billfish. So I find that really interesting. And Kealakekua Bay is a historical park. It's the first place that Westerners had contact with the Hawaiians. And if any of you are going on a snorkel trip, this is where you're going to go. It's called Captain Cook's Inlet, and it's extremely difficult to get there by land, so you have to come in by boat. So most of the snorkel trips will come in by catamaran there. All right, so there's Kailua Kona, the town. There's Kealakekua Bay. There's Kailua Kona. Kealakekua Bay is here. I'm showing you places so that you know how to get there if you wanted to drive there. This is a National Historic Park. This is right down the road from Kona as well. Now, I want you all to pronounce this with me. Remember, I told you that Hawaiian was very phonetic. So if you take your time, you can pronounce any word, even though this one has a whole lot of letters. So try with me. Here we go. Pu'u honua o honau na'u. Easy, right? It's when you have to say it fast that gets difficult. All right, so this is actually a historical site. It's a National Historic Park, and there's a twofer here because not only is it an amazing place, this entire area here is it's called the City of Refuge, if we were to translate it essentially, but all of this is a gigantic coral reef, and even more importantly, it's deep. So it starts off, you can walk, it's called two-step because there's actually two steps right here to get into the water. Two-step, you can pay a guy $5 to park in his backyard right there, or you can park over here at the National Historic Park parking lot, and you can snorkel all through here. And it's deep, it's 40 to 60 feet deep, but the water's really clear, so you can see the bottom. But that's what makes it amazing because tourists can't destroy it because we can't touch it. So it's 40 to 60 feet deep, and it's an intact coral reef, which there aren't many of those left because we walk all over them whenever the tourists get in the water. So it's beautiful. I highly recommend it. You can go snorkeling there and then walk through the beautiful City of Refuge, which is full of replications of what this place used to be. Now, in historic Hawaii, and now even, there's something called kapu. And kapu is kind of like taboo. So if you break the kapu or the taboo of your village or your island or your society, you're punished. And in this case, this particular City of Refuge was a place that you could run and hide from being punished. So there's a lot of statuary there, carved statuary. There's some heiaus as well, some shelters that replicate what would have been there in the ancient Hawaiian times, which of course the missionaries destroyed when they came and settled in Hawaii. So there isn't much of that left. But very beautiful and lots to learn there as well. Lots of signage and park rangers as well. And that's located up here in the north of Kailua Kona. So if you were to drive, about 30-minute drive up the coast there. Here's my secret spot. And it also happens to be a spot you can walk to. And it's not Walmart, for heaven's sakes. This is the old Kona Airport State Recreation Area. So it used to be an airport. You'll see a lot of RC airplanes flying in this area, using the runway as a flying area. But it's a great beach because there's no buildings along it. They didn't build anything on this airport area. So from our port, it's about a 20-minute walk or a 5-minute drive if you take a taxi. And it's a gorgeous beach. It has a rocky entrance on one side. And if there's not a lot of swell that day, you can actually snorkel here. If there's swell, it's not possible. And then there's a little area where it's calm. And there's not any coral because everybody walks all over it. But it's a nice beach. You can go sit down and get in the water. So that's pretty cool within walking distance. My favorite spot in Kona, and there's a tour that goes here, is a seahorse farm. Now, there is a Department of Energy project about 15 minutes away from our port, and it was designed to bring very cold water from the depths off the island of Hawaii, about 3,000 feet below. Remember, it drops off very rapidly. So it brings cold water up from the depths and does a heat exchange for energy. And the Department of Energy was going to use this to make energy on Hawaii. All the islands, by the way, are all trying to be independent of anything from the mainland by 2025 or something like that. So this is an area where they do a lot of aquaculture. That project didn't work out, but they had all this cold water that was being pumped from the bottom of the ocean, and they said, who else could use it? Well, they decided to open an aquaculture park. So there's people there that are holding and growing Maine lobsters. There's people there growing lots of different species of algae for the Asian markets that are very big in Honolulu. Also an abalone farm in Kona, Hawaii that grows Japanese abalone. And they have a seahorse farm, which provides seahorses to pet stores and aquariums all over the world. If you've ever been to an aquarium, most of those fish have been taken out of the ocean, just like Nemo, and put into an aquarium and then adapted to living there. So this place is trying to stop that from people taking seahorses out of the ocean, and they grow 26 different species of seahorses, and they sell them to aquariums all over the world and pet stores all over the world to help curb that. Their next big project, which I'm a real big fan of, is to figure out how to grow the top 15 species that are taken off of Hawaiian reefs and sold in pet stores, because there's no regulation of anybody taking those fish off of Hawaiian reefs. Anybody can go out there, take 100 of them and sell them in pet stores, and they're losing a lot of species. So they're trying to figure out how to grow those top 15 species, and it's a very difficult task to figure out how to grow a sea creature. So they're figuring that out, and they're going to be selling them on the markets as well. So I really love their mission, and if there's still room on that tour, which as of yesterday there was, I highly recommend it. All right, so there's the Big Island. We've covered everything now. Up here, I didn't talk about this heiau, but there's another National Historic Site up here. There's one right below and right above Kona, and it's a heiau. A heiau is a temple, and as I said, most of the structures were destroyed by the missionaries after the Americans took over Hawaii. So it's really just a foundation of a temple, but it's one of the remaining structures left in Hawaii. So it is a National Historic Site now. Okay, then we're heading to Kauai, the Garden Isle. Now, this is one of my favorite islands because it's very, very, I won't say it's primitive, but it's more like if you were to drop in on Hawaii before it became very commercialized. There's a lot of local people, local villages, local communities with very interesting features to visit as well. It's a really down-home place, so it's not commercialized, except for this area over here. There's Hiltons and Sheratons and things like that. But the rest of the island is just people's neighborhoods. It's a really cool place to visit. We're coming into Nawiliwili right over here. That's the name of our port. We'll be in the city of Lahui, which is where the airport is. And we're going to go around the island now and talk about some of the features. Just an FYI, there's only one road, and it goes only 3/4 of the way around the island because this is a missile testing area here, and this is the Napali Coast. It's a state park. So there's no road through the Napali Coast, which is why you have to take a helicopter or a boat over there to see the most gorgeous place in Hawaii. Waimea Canyon is the Grand Canyon of Hawaii. We're going to be talking about these other places as well. All right, there is a public bus, but again, it's just going through people's neighborhoods. So you're not going to get a sightseeing tour on the city bus. But some people like to do that. They like to see people's neighborhoods on vacation. So there you go. You can take the bus around the island. And here's a picture of our harbor. So we'll be coming in through this small opening in the breakwater, and we'll be docking right there. Right next to us, you can see there's a little beach. There's actually a big hotel here, a Duke's restaurant here, and this small little beach. Hawaii is the oldest of the Hawaiian Islands that we're going to be visiting. So the rock and the soil is a lot different. You're not going to have real fine sand. If it's muddy that day, if it's raining, which it often is, if you get any of that mud on your clothes, it won't come out. It's the same color as the back of your chairs. It's been eroded away over the last 3 million years. So all that black rock has already been eroded from the volcano. And now we're getting into the ironitic sections of the rock. Very iron rich, and it's very rusty. So they call it Kauai red. And it doesn't come out of anything white. So if you're going on the 4x4, vroom, ATVs through the forest, don't wear white, or it'll never be white again. I've seen people come back looking completely red. So here's a view from our port, looking over this industrial section here. As you can see, there's a little beach. If there's swell coming in, it's not a good beach to swim at. It's a good beach to surf at. If there's no swell, then you can snorkel along here. But if there's swell, it kind of churns it all up. You can't see anything. So here's a little graphic showing you the beach, the Marriott. There's a hotel here. And then there's a restaurant. I think Duke's is right there. Now, Duke's is named after Duke Kahanamoku, which is the Hawaiian ambassador, as I mentioned, the ambassador of aloha that brought surfing to the rest of the world. So there's a few restaurants named after him. It's a chain, actually. There's our ship looking at it from the beach. So this gives you an idea of how far away that is. Probably about a 20-minute walk. All right, so we're going to head around the island. The first stop is Poipu, Old Kolua Town. And there's a feature down here that's a big blowhole. Most of your tours are going to stop there. You're going to drive through this town on your tours to Waimea Canyon so you can see it. But this is just an old sugar town. So again, this isn't real fancy, and it's basically just neighborhoods. There we go. There's Poipu down here on the bottom. Now we're headed up to Waimea Canyon. It's a state park, and it's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. It's the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. It's 3,000 feet deep and 10 miles long, and there's lots of pull-out points along the way to stop and take gorgeous pictures. Unless it's cloudy and raining, then you won't see this, but it'll still be 3,000 feet deep and 10 miles long, and there'll be waterfalls if it's raining. I took these pictures when I was up there. So fantastic. There's good hiking trails as well. There's Waimea Canyon. So if you're headed out of Lihue, you're going to go along here, up Waimea, and then up to Waimea Canyon Road. It's very twisty and windy. If you get car sick like me, then make sure you drive. Then, let me back up a little bit. I just want to point this out. If you keep going past Waimea Canyon State Park, you get to Koki'i State Park, and that's awesome. Beautiful views of the Nepali coast from above the Nepali coast. Pretty amazing. So Waipo'o Falls, this is an 800-foot waterfall you'll see from the lookout points. And then up to Koki'i State Park, lots of lookouts. Took this picture from one of the lookouts. That's the Nepali coast. That's what you see in your airplane or helicopter ride or your boat ride around the island. Breathtaking, absolutely stunning views. And then lots of hiking trails as well. Okay, now we're headed into the Alakai Swamp. This area is right up here, and it's the runoff area from all these mountains. So it is a bit damp and wet, but it's really great for bird watching. If anybody's into birding, lots of water, lots of interesting birds. And of course, Hawaii has lots of endemic birds that live there and nowhere else, and are specialized to eat the pollen and nectar from the flowers that are only found in Hawaii and nowhere else. The Hawaii state bird is the nene. It's the world's rarest goose, and it is thought to be about 500,000 years old. It evolved from a Canada goose. Somehow a Canada goose got to Hawaii, and it evolved here. They don't fly very much. You'll see them on the sides of the road, and they're an endangered species. So you'll see signs, caution, nenes. And that means you've got to drive slow through that area because nenes are crossing the road. So don't run over an endangered species, for heaven's sakes. All right. You may hear a lot about the menehune on Kauai. And I think it's because this is the most prolific and ancient story about the menehune. I don't know why they look like little Italian men, but this is the graphic depiction that you see of a menehune. And they're called the little people. And it comes from a long history of folklore in Hawaii that these little people exist. And it probably There's always, some sort of truth to the stories that they tell. So this was probably the Marquesans that were the little people, because the Marquesans came to Hawaii way before the Tahitians did, and nobody knows what happened to them. So it's thought that maybe the Marquesans were chased into the forests, into the mountains by the Hawaiians, and then they became these little mysterious forest people that poked out every once in a while. And there's a story in Kauai about basically aquaculture, which my degree is in aquaculture, and so I find it very interesting. But one night, in the period of one night, the king woke up and found that he had this fish pond built outside of his house out of rocks that were from 25 miles away, and nobody could explain it. But there was a period of time where there wasn't a lot of food, and nobody knew how to fix that, and so these little people designed this little fish pond, and when the tide came in, the fish would get trapped in the fish pond, and then they'd grow there, and whenever you needed fish, you could go out and take them. So this is the first, really the earliest aquaculture that we know of in the world, by bringing in fish, holding onto them, feeding them, and then taking them, catching them, essentially whenever you wanted them. So there's national historic sites of all these different aquaculture pools that were started around the Hawaiian Islands for that very purpose. So they built walls, they put a little weir to keep the fish in and to let the fish come in during the high tide, and then they could go out and catch them whenever they needed food. When times were lean. There's one right next to the pier in Kona, actually. Okay, then we're moving over to the Waialua River and Falls. Now this is Hawaii's only navigable river, so that's kind of special. I know there's tours that are taking people here. You can also drive to see it from above. You can't drive along the river, but you can see some of the waterfalls that fall into this river. But you cannot visit the grotto. There's this beautiful cave that's been carved out of the side of a mountain with ferns overhanging it, and it is indeed a grotto that you'll be able to visit on one of those tours. I think it's the Wailea River and Fern Grotto. So that's located right up here, and that's a state park as well. All right, so next, there's a picture. That's the picture of the waterfall on the Wailua River. All right, next is Kilauea Point. Now, I love birds. They fascinate me. And so this point up here, right now is not a good time for breeding season, but right up here is a great place to go to look at pelagic birds, frigate birds, tropic birds, terns, shearwaters. They all soar over this peak. And in the wintertime, they all nest right here. So it's pretty spectacular to see albatross, shearwaters, boobies, tropic birds, and frigate birds all nesting right here on this point. There's a beautiful lighthouse there. And as I said, lots of birds, of these same species of birds soaring over that peak. There's what the lighthouse looks like. You can walk out there. Next is Hanalei Valley, Hanalei Bay, and Lumahai Beach. So these are all up in the north. It's an agricultural area, beautiful beaches. If you are planning on swimming, this might be a good place to swim, depending on the winds and the swell. Everything changes every day in the ocean, so you got to check to see which way the winds and the swell are blowing that day. That's right up here at the top. And then, as I mentioned, if you can swing it, put it on the credit card, pay it off later. Highly recommend getting up high and going to see this from the air. Because not only do you get to see the Nepali coast, you get to see the whole interior of Kauai, which is impenetrable. There's no roads in there. And it has the wettest place on earth, Wailea. You can take planes and helicopters, and you'll just have to reserve this before you get there. But it's absolutely stunningly spectacular. These are some of the sites we took pictures of on our tour. You'll fly over the valleys on the center of the island. This is the rainiest place on Earth, 452 inches of rain per year. It's It's right there, smack dab in the center. And here's my secret spot. It's a glass beach. They used to dump glass here. There's a manufacturing area right next door. They don't do it anymore. But the ocean, of course, scours that glass and makes lots of sea glass. So the whole beach is covered with glass. I can sit for hours and just sift through. I like to do that with rocks too. Sift through the sand and look for different colors of glass. I think it's beautiful. So if that's something that interests you, make a trip down there. The glass beach is down here, past Poipu, down past Koloa. Just Google it. It'll take you right there. It's in a real industrial spot, so you wouldn't even know that you're going to some beautiful beach. Now, the youngest island, as I mentioned, is Hawaii. Nice, gradually sloping edges. Kauai, the oldest island, 3 to 4 million years old, with sheer cliffs that have been eroded away over the last several million years. So we can see erosion in action on these islands. Next, we're headed to Oahu. It is the island of Oahu. We're going to the city of Honolulu, which is the capital of the state of Hawaii. You got to get all that down so you know what you're saying when you go home. So we'll talk about some of the places that we're going to be able to visit in Honolulu. We have all day when we get there. So lots of highlights on the island. Waikiki, of course, is probably on the top of everybody's list. It's really a big city, is what it is. 70%, more than 70% of the population of the entire state of Hawaii lives in this city. That's a lot of people. I think it's 380,000 if I remember correctly. So we're going to be pulling right into downtown, literally right into downtown. It's the capital city since 1845, and we're going to be right here. I don't know which dock, but somewhere around this area. I don't know that till we get there. But right in the downtown area, around the Aloha clock. There we go, 337,000. That's how close we come to downtown. So we'll be in a business district. It's not like we're in a big shopping district. So we're in the business district. You've got to get to, tourist areas from here, but you really are right in the thick of things. The Aloha Tower is a lighthouse. It's considered an iconic Hawaiian landmark. It was built or turned on September 11th, 1926. And like the Statue of Liberty, it welcomes vessels and has greeted hundreds of thousands of immigrants to Honolulu. So it has a clock tower on it, and you'll see it from many places. So that'll orient you when you're walking around downtown Honolulu. Now, they really like you in Honolulu because you bring lots of money to them. So there's a whole lot available to you in downtown Honolulu. Tourism brings in about $10 billion a year. So there's lots of things for you to do there. Getting around in Honolulu is pretty easy. There's Uber, Lyft, taxi, city buses, $2.75. You have to have exact change. You can walk, certainly. There's rental cars, retail shuttles. I know that the shopping expert was just sharing some of that with you. And you can rent bicycles, like you can in many big cities in Honolulu. So they're laying all around the city. You just pick it up, put your credit card in, and then ride. And when you're done, you swipe your credit card again, and it charges you for your ride. Some of them will do it just for time limits. So 30 minutes is $4. You select it. You want to do it for 30 minutes, and it'll shut off. It'll lock the bike at 30 minutes. So you better know where you're going. But you can download their app. That's required to do that. You need to download their app when you get to Honolulu, and you can rent their bikes all over the city, which is really, I think, nice for most big cities. We're going to be really close to Chinatown, which is always fun to take advantage of, to see the different foods and different wares in another part of a city. And there's often activities going on in Chinatown. You can walk to it. It'll be about a 15-minute walk. It's beautiful architecture. This is the capital city of Hawaii. So beautiful architecture downtown. It's home of the state Supreme Court, the state capitol, definitely built in the 60s, right? Late 60s architecture. And then there's a palace as well. United States' only royal residence. It was enjoyed by King Kalakakua and his sister, Queen Liliuokalani. And it was built in 1882. And it had electricity and telephone lines before the White House did. Pretty awesome. And again, that opulent, rich tones, beautiful architecture and decoration. I love looking at Hawaiian decor. This is the Bishop Museum. Again, you see that rich wood in there. A gorgeous architecture on the outside as well. It's the Hawaii State Museum of Natural and Cultural History. I highly recommend it. You can take a bus there. You can take a taxi, Lyft, or Uber. And it started in 1889. It's the largest museum in Hawaii. It has the world's largest collection of Polynesian cultural artifacts and natural history specimens. It's fantastic, actually. I really enjoyed going there. I've been several times, and it's wonderful. They also have a little planetarium there as well. So you can visit a planetarium and the museum on the same day. Okay, next we're headed to Waikiki. Waikiki is right down here. We'll be pulling in right near the Aloha Tower right here. So Waikiki is about, I'd say it would be about an hour walk or an hour taxi drive. Because the traffic's so bad, as you can imagine. No, it's not quite an hour. It's probably about 30 minutes taxi drive or an hour walk. But Waikiki, of course, is the center, the hub of the metropolitan area. It's famous for surfing and views of Diamond Head. It's covered with lots of tall buildings and lots of touristy things to do. Diamond Head State Park, again, is a beautiful place to visit. It's actually an extinct volcano. It's been inactive for over 150,000 years. It does not allow for hiking on the inside. A bus will bring you through the volcano, through a tunnel, drop you off, and then the only option you have is to hike up to the top of the volcano. You can't walk around on the inside because they used it for missile testing and ammunition testing, the government, and so it's full of lead, and they're having to mitigate that by cleaning it up. So you can't walk around down there at the moment. But here's some views from the top. You get to look back on the city, which is quite remarkable. I will warn you, though, it does have a lot of stairs. That's what the inside of the crater looks like. So that whole area, as I said, was used for military purposes, people living along the outsides of it. And then, but it does have 175 steps. And a few of the areas you've got to duck down under batteries to get through some narrow places. But if you can make it, you get up here and have some spectacular views of the coastline. Next is the Waikiki Aquarium. Another way to see animals without having to get your hair wet and mess up your makeup is to go to the aquarium. I've had several friends who've worked there. It's a nice aquarium, and it'll give you an idea of the species that live in Hawaii. Again, that live there and nowhere else in the world, so it's really unique. For those of you who like to shop, of course, they have shopping for you. Ala Moana Shopping Center is a big bus stop downtown as well. That'll take you about an hour and a half to walk to. Across the street and further closer to the ship is the Royal Hawaiian Center. That'll take you about an hour to get to if you walked. But they do hula demonstrations, hula classes, lei making classes, ukulele classes. They have this big, beautiful atrium in the middle of their shopping mall. And there's often presentations and dancing and music going on there. So it's quite lovely. They have a little visitor center for you to come in and learn about Hawaiian culture, which I think is quite beautiful. So you get to shop and do some learning. Next is Hanauma Bay. Now we're moving now to the east from Waikiki. This is one of the most famous places for snorkelers in Hawaii. You can rent your snorkel equipment there, and they make you sit down and watch a video so that you know how to behave around coral when you get in the water. So they have it in 12 different languages. No matter which language you speak, you're required to watch this 7-minute video so that you don't misbehave around coral reefs. It's a gorgeous beach. If you can't walk it, because you have to walk down this road. If you can't walk it, they have a shuttle. I think it's $3 or something that will take you up or down. And as you can see, it's a very wide beach. They have lifeguards, and there's a gigantic coral reef here. You can go in a submarine, another way to see the corals without getting your hair wet or ruining your makeup. And then moving further to the east, the Sandy Beach, or Makapu'u is the name of this area. Very, very windy, usually. So not good for beach going, unless you like sand-blasted sandwiches and legs. But it is really beautiful. Gorgeous drive. There's a nice hiking up in here. So you're going to drive around the coast, drive around here. There's a beautiful lighthouse on the other side and some gorgeous hikes. There's the Sea Life Park, which I know we have some excursions to. You can go out there and they have opportunities to interact with the animals like this at the Sea Life Park. All right, so there we go. We came out of Waikiki, Hanauma Bay. You can also take the bus there. The bus goes all the way around the island. Sea Life Park is up here around the corner. Makapu'u Point, right there. Okay, now we're going to go back the other way. The World War II Valor in the Pacific National Monument. Now, this is all of the following things. It's the Pacific Historic Parks. It is Pearl Harbor, the USS Bowfin, the Battleship Missouri, and the Pacific Aviation Museum are all part of that historic monument. So what do? Battleship Row at Pearl Harbor, the USS Bowfin. We have the Mighty Mo also there in that area. The Pacific Aviation Museum, which is located off-site, about 20 minutes away from that area. And then, of course, the USS Arizona Memorial. It's the #1 attraction in Oahu. And it's open. Yay! This has been closed for the last, year because of the hurricane they had last year. So now it's open again. If you don't already have tickets, you better get them today because you can't just walk to the memorial. You can go to the actual historic park and see the movie and walk around the grounds. But if you want to go to the USS Arizona, you have to have a ticket. And they're only $1 online on the U.S. government National Parks website, but it reserves you a seat on this boat, which has a finite number of seats. And they only take a finite number of trips over to the Arizona every day. And they usually are sold out 6 months ahead of time. So if you don't have a ticket already, get online now and get one so you can reserve yourself a seat on that boat. It's driven by the U.S. Navy, and they take you over to the USS Arizona where they disembark you onto the memorial. You're standing above the sunken vessel, and it is a place of reverence and solitude and quiet. You're not allowed to take anything with you except a camera. No purses, no camera bags. If you take it to this area, they will tell you you have to pay $5 to put it in before you're allowed on the boats, before you're even allowed into the national park. So just know that ahead of time. You're going to have to stow it. This is a little picture of what it looks like inside. You're only allowed to stay for the allotted amount of time, which is usually about 20 minutes or so. They round you all up, put you back on the boat, and the next group comes. It's not a very big place. So I know somebody was saying, I don't want to just stay for 20 minutes. I said, you don't have a choice in the matter. The National Park Service will usher you out of there. You have to get back on the boat. Taxi fare from the ship is about $50. It's not close to our ship. There's a bus. If you want to navigate the bus system, you can use your Google Maps to do that. And you have to transfer, I think, once, but it'll take you to the National Historic Park. But you still need that ticket to get to the Arizona. You may only see it from afar if you don't have that ticket. Okay, so here's where Pearl Harbor is. So our ship is down here. You'll have to get all the way over to here, which is about 45-minute drive, probably an hour and 20 minutes on a bus, or Uber's, Lyft will be the same. Okay, next we're headed to the North Shore, Waimea Bay. You remember the Beach Boys songs? They sing about all these places. Waimea Bay, gorgeous. In the winter, it doesn't look like that, which is why it's a famous surf spot. It has 20 to 30-foot waves hitting that beach. But during the summer, it's quite calm and beautiful. Gorgeous bay. And right across the street is the Waimea Valley Botanical Gardens. Beautiful. Waterfalls, beautiful grounds. They have a cafe there. They have cultural interpreters with little stations set up to show you about different information about the cultural history of that area. And they often have a medicine person there who's talking about medicinal uses for plants. And they'll have someone doing dances, making instruments. It's really a beautiful visit. I love this picture. It's of a acacia tree, and it's, the way the sun was coming through, it was fantastic. Sorry, this slide doesn't do it justice. But lots of open ground and a nice place to visit for the day. Gorgeous flowers. All right. Now, this area on the North Shore is famous for surfing, of course. Waimea Bay, Bonsai Pipeline, Sunset Beach are all located up there, all the places where the Beach Boys sang about and hung out. And during the winter months, you have the Triple Crown of surfing going on. So the Carnival cruises go there in December and January, and that's often when we arrive is during these surf competitions. So I've gotten to see many of them when we go there. I know there's one going on. I'll go up and sit on the beach and watch it. Pretty cool. As you go around the top of the North Shore, we get to the Polynesian Cultural Center. And wow, this is an amazing journey. Kind of like, ever been to Epcot Center? Where you have the different lands. You go around and visit Germany and Japan and England. It's kind of like that. But it's all Polynesia. So you go and visit Tahiti and Fiji and Samoa. And there's people there doing activities to show you cultural activities as well. So they're dancing, they may be making instruments, they may be cooking, they may be carving in each of those lands. And you just walk around and there's a schedule of activities. You go, I'm going to Fiji at 2 o'clock and I'll be in Samoa at 3 p.m. And then on to New Zealand by 4:30. So you can see all of Polynesia all in one day. And it really is educational and really cool. And at the end of the day, they have this gigantic multi-Polynesian cultural show, I guess, with fire and a big buffet dinner. It's fantastic. It's owned by the Mormon Church, and everybody that works there in this park, this amusement park, so to speak, is a student or was a student at the school, BYU Hawaii. Oh, we're there on Sunday? Crap. All right, never mind. Thank you for telling me that. It's closed. Never mind. It's really cool, though. You got to go there next time we go. Thank you for telling me that. So you can go to church somewhere. All right, North Shore. While we're up there, you can go to the temple, perhaps. North Shore. Food trucks. There's no towns up here, small little places, but there's food trucks because everybody knows you're driving this route and there's no place to eat. So they set up food trucks for you to eat. A lot of shrimp trucks, not shrimp from Hawaii, but farm-raised shrimp in that area. Ask where the shrimp comes from. Make sure it's either grown in Hawaii or harvested in Hawaii, or else you're eating Indonesian shrimp from a shrimp truck in Hawaii, which doesn't make any sense to me. So ask them where their shrimp comes from. But there's a few shrimp farms in that area, and some of the farms, all the farms serve their own shrimp. Okay. So I just gave you a lot to do. Some you can't because it's closed. And you now have all the information you need to make a plan. Hopefully you have one already. I can't answer questions on the stage, but I will answer questions over here unless they kick us out, and then we'll go to the back of the theater.